Hello and welcome to the Molly Llama. I'm going to talk about the divine masculine and the divine feminine today and what the topic is really about and why it's important to integrate both of them and how to do so. We all have divine masculine and feminine within us. Some of us express more of one or the other. And you can kind of see which one you are based on the people you attract into your life. And what I mean by that is your life wants balance. Your energy wants balance. So if you're heavy in the divine feminine, then you're going to attract heavy in the divine masculine relationships. They can be romantic or not romantic relationships. You can just kind of look around you and see what kind of people you normally attract. You can also see which masculine or feminine within you is imbalanced based on your judgment of others. So if you have a heavy judgment towards assertiveness, towards aggression, towards loyalty, if it kind of gets under your skin when you think about somebody who's, heavy masculine energy, there is repressed masculinity within you. If you have an aversion towards people who stick to the logical side of things, who rely on math or who rely on setting goals and achieving goals, then that is something within you that is waiting to be expressed, explored, integrated, and accepted, and vice versa. You can really see in our society how it's run by the divine masculine. We're run by busy bee productivity. Success is virtuous. Loyalty is virtuous. Even routines based on the day and night cycle is virtuous. The feminine would be more a 28-day cycle, like a moon time. That's feminine. You go through different phases at different times. Divine feminine would be, just to kind of like piggyback on that and explain that a little further because I find it super interesting. Divine feminine goes through very specific energetic cycles throughout the month. If we're following a divine feminine timeline, there are weeks for productivity. There are weeks for cleaning, getting ready. There are weeks for reflecting. There are weeks for planning. So it kind of goes in a cycle, whereas the divine masculine, daytime is productivity, nighttime is rest. It's not that way for a feminine cycle, which is why many people who are living more in the feminine side of things experience so much burnout. Well, there's a lot that goes into that. But like timeline-wise, people who are in the divine feminine or more in their feminine energy might find it more difficult to stick to routines and structure. Now, that of course is something that can be balanced within you. And I find knowing this information really helps achieve that balance because there's less judgment. You're not a bad person. You're not faulty if it's difficult for you to follow the day-night structure, masculine structure. There's nothing wrong with you, but it is a skill that you can develop, build trust within yourself, and learn to work with. Now, let's go to the other side of things where I talked about the judgment. So if you're more in your divine masculine or you were raised to be more in your divine masculine, then you might have judgment towards people who are more sensitive, towards people who do not have consistent energy, productivity energy. You might have judgment towards people who are compassionate to all when you think we should be more judgmental to get people in line. You might find judgment towards people who are more introspective, less outgoing, and outwardly emotive. If you're judgmental towards that, then the divine feminine within you is imbalanced and is asking to be integrated and accepted. And again, you see those things based on your judgments of other people, because the world is basically a mirror for what's going on inside of you. As within, so without. So if you're finding yourself heavily judging another based on any of these qualities, well, I recommend doing the research on divine masculine, divine feminine, so you can get a more clear understanding in your own way of what each of them mean. And then utilizing your environment, you can see which one is imbalanced within you. Now, why is this important? Why does it matter if the divine masculine and feminine are balanced within me? If they're balanced within me, then I am a full autonomous being. I'm not relying on somebody else to take care of me emotionally, and I'm not relying on other people to be my structure, to be my loyalty, to be my routine, and to be my success. I am fully capable of being all of those things myself, which is great. I mean, if you want it to be, you don't have to live that way. But I like living that way because it allows me to show up more authentically and compassionate and more presently in my relationships, because I'm not relying on somebody else to meet those needs. I know that I'm fully capable of meeting my own needs. It just, for me, it gets rid of a lot of relationship conflict that honestly is so unnecessary. Like, it's so unnecessary. In the healing process, it might be totally necessary to address those wounds and have somebody to work with you and be your mirror and stuff, but once you find that balance within, and I'm not 100% balanced by any means, I'm working towards balancing myself, the conflict in relationship just seems pointless unless it's worthy. There's not like a wasted energy and misdirected energy in those relationships. Okay. So how do you go about balancing the masculine and feminine within you? Understanding what the divine masculine and feminine is, first and foremost, is most important. Like I said, doing your own research and continuing that research and creating your own definitions of what it means. I don't want to tell you one way or another what I think you need to hear. You really need to go find it yourself, honestly. So having that understanding and then doing a little bit of internal reflection on where maybe you're not quite meeting those, not really requirements, but those check boxes, I guess. So for me, I thought I was okay in my masculine because I'm pretty disciplined. I have discipline down. But there's a lot of other things that in the masculine that I was imbalanced in. So for example, assertiveness. Standing up for myself, thinking I'm even worthy of having the things that I want in my life. As if you have been raised as a woman, if you identify as a woman, if you have been culturally conditioned as a woman, you've been taught that other people come first. So that makes us rely on the divine masculine to support us, because we literally can't support ourselves when we're putting everyone else first. So as females, or as women, I don't know what words to use anymore, as women, when you become assertive in your own life and understand that you are worthy of all the things that you want simply because you exist, that's exercising the divine masculine. And this is showing up a lot for me in business, because I want to run my own business, which requires a lot of masculine qualities like leadership and assertiveness and this self-confidence that I've got my back and I can protect myself. I think that's like the major overlying theme of the divine masculine is protection. Protection of self, protection of loved ones, and protection of the divine feminine. I was reading on the internet that the divine feminine cannot fully express herself unless she feels protected, and the divine masculine is that protector. So as women, when we are able to fully protect ourselves in the qualities of the divine masculine, this doesn't mean like learning to fight unless you really feel as though that's going to help develop your divine masculine. It doesn't mean you have to carry a weapon. It doesn't mean you have to do any of those things. there's a lot of other qualities that protect the feminine. When we learn to do that, then our truest femininity, feminine energy can come out, which is a beautiful thing. And it's really what the world needs. The world really needs nurturing, and the world needs authentic compassion, and the world needs a little bit of introspection in order to progress. We have to redirect our energy and put more emphasis and more respect towards the divine feminine to find balance in our external world. Find balance within, and then it comes without. Work on yourself first. Put on your own mask in the airplane before you help somebody else. Okay, so I was saying, anyway, it doesn't matter. How do you do it? I think inner child work is a really great place to start, because but it kind of addresses every area of self-empowerment, personal growth, if you want to use that word. I like to call it autonomous living, self-autonomy, coming into your fullest self-expression, being able to take care of yourself, being able to shine your own light, and being able to take responsibility for your own experience. Responsibility for your emotions, responsibility for your thoughts, and when you're able to do all of that, then you can live whatever life you want to live. The world opens up to you in total freedom. Whatever you can dream, you can create. And you don't have to rely on anybody else to take care of you. You can ask for help, obviously. That's super important. That's actually a divine feminine. It's both divine feminine, divine masculine attributes. That's not what I mean here. What I mean is you are just responsible for your own experience, and that's super freeing. You don't have to wait for anybody to give you permission, because your existence is all the permission you need. So inner child work. Basically, what that is you're looking at what hurt you as a child and dimmed your light. Because when we're children, we're born in our utmost authenticity. We are raw, spiritual beings. We haven't been shaped by the world yet. We're just coming in exactly as we're supposed to be. And then through people who've raised us, not necessarily on purpose, sometimes on purpose, a lot of the time by accident, that light is dimmed or shamed or shunned. So these pieces of ourselves are put away into what we call the shadow, to be hidden in the dark and pretend like they are not a part of us. Natural instincts, or sometimes passions, just depends on who you were raised by. A really good example of this would be if you were born a male and you were raised to be a male, but you had a passion for, say, fashion or theater and drama, but your parental figures wanted you to be a football player, and you went along with it because you wanted to be accepted, right? All these creative aspects of you, maybe even pieces of your divine feminine, are now in your shadow. So these are parts of ourselves that we push away or block out because somebody else told us that it was bad, that it wasn't acceptable, and that we weren't allowed to be that way. That causes a wound to our child, or to our inner, or to our child self, who doesn't understand that it's not their fault that somebody else feels that way about them. That's somebody else's problem. Because as children, we are 100% vulnerable to the world. We 100% rely on our parental figures to take care of us survival-wise. That means whatever they say goes, because they are literally God in our little children's minds. That's a dangerous place to be for both child and parent, because parents are just human beings. Most of them do the absolute best that they can, and I would say that all of them do the best that they can with what they've been given and with where they are. We'll see how that goes. Most of them. We'll stick with most of them. How's that? They do the best we can. But as children, we see them as God. So then we blame ourselves and think that we are the ones that are defective based on what other people are telling us. And that continues through adolescence, basically. So lots of things get pushed into our shadow, and they cause wounds that we are either told to get over, move on from, that we don't have the ability to communicate, address, or understand, etc., etc. So they're just like little sores inside of our hearts. As adults, those wounds get reflected back to us in our environment through the things that happen. Literally everything that happens to me can be reflected back to some wound in my childhood. And these wounds don't have to be capital T traumas, by the way. They don't have to at all. I have a wound where I was a little bit too young to see a hypersexualized music video when I did, and that kind of gave me a distorted vision on my sexuality as a woman and what my value as a woman was. So that is a wound. Nobody's fault, not intentional. From an adult perspective, not a big fucking deal. From a kid's perspective, a big deal. Wasn't ready. Didn't know how to communicate. She wasn't ready. Didn't have anybody to talk to about it. Didn't even understand what was happening. It didn't feel good in her body. So that's reflected in my current experience in a variety of ways. And in those variety of ways, you can do your own journaling prompts and be like, okay, what's the emotion that I'm feeling? Where did I first experience this? Where does this come from? What memory does this take me back to? And then the emotion comes up, and this is where the divine masculine and divine feminine really comes in handy. The easiest way that has been for me to tap into my divine energies is to be my own internal mother and internal father. So during the inner child work, when my emotion comes up, what would I want the best mother in the world to say to me? What did I want my mom to always say to me in these instances? Maybe not even, you don't even have to say what did I want my mom to say, because that can be limiting for people if you feel ashamed for saying that any of your parents did anything wrong. They didn't mean to. First of all, they're not wrong. They're not bad people. It doesn't make you love them any less. Again, as a child, you interpreted the experience how you did as a child. Nobody's fault. So you can just say, what would I want a mother, a goddess version mother to say to me right now? Sorry, I thought there was an ant on my toe. Freaked me out. What would I want her to say to me? And then you have that conversation with yourself. I like to do it. It was definitely a bug, but I don't know what it is. Oh, it's an ant. It was an ant. Yucky. It's a big one too. Oh, that was my head. What would I want her to say to me? How would I want her to nurture me? And then you can have that conversation journal in your mind or out loud. You can have yourself sit in one chair, divine mother sit in the other, and be the best mother that you can to yourself. What is it you need right now, honey? How can I show up for you? How can I support you? Give yourself a hug, wrap yourself in a warm blanket, give yourself a bath if that's what you need. Take some time out for yourself to watch your favorite childhood movie, whatever it is. Be the divine feminine in your own experience. Sometimes when, and I've done this too, when people hear this information, their mind automatically goes into, how can I use this to help others? Don't do that yet. Practice it with you first. How it can help other people will come. Now, the divine masculine. I recommend researching what toxic masculinity is and the divine masculine. That word toxic masculinity has been thrown around a lot, so I highly implore you to let go of the judgment and don't use the word toxic. Use the word misguided, misused energy. Exacerbated aspects of the divine feminine. Exacerbated aspects of the divine masculine are what people call toxic masculinity. These are also wounds. Let go of the judgment as much as you can, because masculinity is a beautiful, beautiful thing, just as femininity is. So, how can you show up as your best father? I've used my divine masculine in times where I felt threatened around other people. And when I didn't have the experience of standing up for myself in that current instance, I'll journal about it. And sometimes, actually a lot of the time, it ends up being from my inner child and her experience or her interpretation of that experience and why it was scary and why she felt afraid and why she felt unsafe. And then my divine masculine will show up and tell those people off in my mind's eye. Protect her at all costs, because she does not deserve to have any of that around her. She deserves to be protected. So my divine masculine has shown up a lot as a protective, assertive figure in defense towards people where I just felt like I had to be quiet and to be subdued and just go with the flow, because I'm a woman and I just go with the flow. It's just an easier place to be. But my divine masculine says, no, 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 no. And so I have to exercise and start practicing standing up for myself, expressing my opinions, and standing my ground. Starting with journaling, right? Just starting with journaling, just starting with going with my, dealing with my emotions, expressing my anger in a secluded area, safe environment for me to do so, punching pillows, screaming in pillows, stuff like that. The divine masculine can also show up for you as your best coach. So I know quite a few people who have had constructive masculine figures through sports coaches. So you can kind of be like, okay, how can I show up as my own best sports coach in my life? And that's exercising divine masculine. So for example, say you have a creative project you want to begin, but you're having a hard time starting. You can utilize your divine masculine to support you and to give you motivation and to give you pep talks and to give you that masculine support to create the plan and execute the plan and slowly build trust with yourself, slowly build your skills. That's a really great one. Yeah, I think that's basically it. That's all I can really think of. If the child work sounds really interesting to you and it made sense in the way that I explained it, you can set a phone background as a picture of your younger self, just as a nice reminder of, hey, I'm trying to become my own best mother and father figure to this beautiful and sensitive, authentic self within that is my inner child. How can I show up as both the protector and the compassionate, empathetic, comfort system in my own life? Also, how can I be more kind to myself and remember that I'm just a child pretending to be an adult all the time? Okay, so if you have any questions about the divine masculine or feminine, definitely drop a comment down below and I can make another video to help explain that. Also, I wonder if I can switch. No, I can't. I wanted to know if I could switch my camera because I hate the way it reverses it. That's why I'm facing one direction, because I like that my feminine side of my face better. Whatever. Fuck the patriarchy. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.